Good morning. Today we are working on CO52. We are continuing our work with our angles, working on that geometry stuff. So CO52 says I can identify complementary or supplementary angles. So yesterday we talked about acute and obtuse with the right and the straight angles. Today we're talking about complementary and supplementary. Does anybody know what a complementary angle is? Did we learn this in 5th grade? Okay, sometimes Mr. Robinson gets to it and spends like half a class period on it. Sometimes he does not. So a complementary angle are two angles that sum to be 90 degrees. What does sum mean, Jimena? Add. So when we add two angle numbers together, it will be 90 degrees. Those would be two complementary angles. Only two. We don't add up three angles to get 90 degrees. It's two angles. So now angles do not have to be adjacent to be complementary. They can be. So we might have an angle, a right angle like this, and let's say we've got 30-degree angle and a 60-degree angle. If we add 30 and 60 together, it's 90 degrees. That would be complementary. To be adjacent means they are sharing a side. So we have our 60-degree angle here, we have our 30-degree angle here, and they share that middle line, that middle side. That means they are adjacent. They do not have to be adjacent to be complementary. We could have the 60-degree angle like this and a 30-degree angle here, and we could say these two angles are complementary. I add them together and they are 90 degrees. They do not have to be next to each other. They both equal 90, so they are both complementary angles. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you might see them together, you might see them separated, and you just have to add them together to get that 90 degree. So then we have supplementary angles. Any guess on what supplementary angles are? Take a guess.
If you add them, it's over 90.
Think about what we talked about yesterday. Be a little bit more precise. Complementaries are 90 degrees, so supplementary would be
Half the 90?
no, not half a 90. Go the other way, Connor.
Two angles that equal above 90?
Not above 90. Melanie? Not 360. That's a full circle. We didn't talk about circles yesterday. Dom? 180 degrees. So supplementary angles are two angles that sum to be 180 degrees. So yesterday we talked about those right angles, 90 degrees. And we talked about the straight angle, 180 degrees. So we have that straight angle, and we have two angles together. So let's call this one 45 degrees. So then this big one would be 135 degrees. They would be supplementary. We add the two angles together and we get that straight angle of 180 degrees. Now, if we look at the example I drew, they share an angle side. They are adjacent. But just like with complementary, they do not have to be adjacent to be supplementary. So we could have them separated We could have the 45-degree angle up here. We could have the 135-degree angle over here. They don't have to be touching, but we can say they are supplementary, right? They don't have to share a line. It's easy when we see this and when we see this. That is 90 degrees. Those two angles are complementary. This is a straight angle, straight line. Those two angles are supplementary, but they don't have to be together. Key things to remember are complementary equal 90 degrees, supplementary equal 180 degrees. Make sense? How are we feeling with that? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs shaky? Okay, some of us are like, oh, these are new vocab words. Let's see how they work. Let's do a little bit of work to see if we're understanding this. Fair enough. So I'm going to erase this so I can move up. So it says, study the diagrams below. Which diagrams show complementary angles and which diagrams show supplementary angles? You could have multiple diagrams that fit one question. So let's try to rule these out. If we look at A, I have 35 degrees and 65 degrees. What do I have to do to answer the question, Melanie? Yeah, I have to add them together. Do they equal exactly 90 degrees? Do they equal exactly 180 degrees? Or is the answer neither? Should I just cross it off? If it doesn't equal 90, it's not complementary. If it doesn't equal 180, it is not supplementary. I can cross the A off. I'm not going to use it. Marina? You're not going to tell me how much it equals. We're going to let people figure that out. If we look at B, we're going to take how many of those angles to add together? 2. So we have different angles here. I could add 30 plus 30. I could add 150 plus 150. I could add 30 plus 150. Any of those combinations. So if I just went 30 plus 30, I get 60. It doesn't work. I don't move on to the next one and cross it off. I have to look at all of my combinations. 150 plus 150. 30 plus 150. I have to check all of my combinations to see if any of them add to 90 degrees to be complementary or add to 180 degrees to be supplementary. We're not going to give away the answer. Question?
It equals 9 if you do 30 minus, if you do both 30 minus 30.
But what is our definition of complementary? The sum of two angles. So you're right. We could do some other math. We could do 150 minus 30 and get 90 degrees, but that would not be complementary. In order for it to be complementary, it has to be adding two angles. No other way to do math to get to the 90 degrees. I like that you were looking at that and using your good number sense, but it has to be adding the two. Then on the bottom it says draw and label each angle's complement, if applicable, and supplement. So we don't have to be precise with our protractor. So we can just draw this one, but it needs to be logically make sense. So if I look at this, it must be applicable to make it a complement. So if I have 161 degrees, can I add an angle to that to make a complement? No, because it's already bigger than 90 degrees. So I can only draw its supplemental angle. But for this one, that's 52 degrees, can I add an angle to that to make 90 degrees?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look at that vertex. I'm gonna say, okay, here's my bottom line. I'm gonna go straight up for it to be 90 degrees, and I'm gonna go straight to the left for it to be a straight angle. I'm not done. I have to put what the angle measurement must be to make it a complement, what the angle measurement must be to make it a supplementary. So right here, what angle do I have to make it complementary? 38 degrees, because 90 minus 52 is 38 degrees. So that's one angle. My complementary angle is 38 degrees. Now I need to do my supplementary angle. So if I have 52 degrees, what does my supplementary angle have to be? What do you think, Connor? 128. 180 minus 52 is 128 degrees. Notice how I put my angle measurements here. I put that little arc to say this one is 38 degrees, and then I put my bigger arc going from the 52 all the way down to that straight line, and I said that one is 128 degrees. So for that second one that we said we cannot make it complementary, I am just going to put that supplementary angle in there. So if it's bigger than 90 degrees, you just have to do the supplement. But if our initial angle is less than 90 degrees, you have to do both angles. What would make it 90 degrees complementary? What would make it 180 degrees supplementary? Okay. Now, today is the day that our math packets are due. So if you are finished with your math assignment, if you finish this up before class is done, make sure you finish up that math packet and turn it in. If you've already turned in your math packet, you're on top of it. Thank you very much. It is silent work time. If we have social studies, we need to finish up that chapter comprehension page. If you want to work on that, you can. In religion, we are memorizing the Stations of the Cross. You can practice the Stations of the Cross. This is not social time. If you've already gotten your math or your social studies done and you've already been signed off on your Stations of the Cross, work on something from Mrs. Gregory. Worst comes to worst, work on reading a book for the book challenge. Get started on next trimester's book challenge. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.